Your team's not failing you, you're failing them by refusing to let them fail.
All right, how's it going, everybody? Quick plug here for you. Do you like orange juice? Jay, I'm asking you, do you like orange juice?
Who doesn't like orange juice? I love it.
All right. But maybe struggling to afford it a little bit? I got something for you.
Orange juice is expensive. You have another option?
I do. Yeah. We got the looks the same, slightly crappier Sunny Delight for you. So new sponsor of the show. So if you're looking for something to spice up your morning there, go out and get something that's going to fool the rest of the table. Looks just like orange juice, but tastes more like shit than orange juice.
That's right. This episode brought to you by Sunny Delight.
There you go. All jokes aside, guys, welcome to the show. Welcome back, everybody. It is the Fitz and Franson Show. I am, as usual, Fitz.
And I am Franson.
And this is the show where we strip away the fluff and ignore the hype and get to the core of what it actually takes to win in business and in life.
Yeah, and we're not here to tell you what you want to hear. We're here to tell you what you need to hear, to be honest. And chaos is normal in business, and staying there is ultimately a choice.
Absolutely. And at the end of our last episode, we talked about the confidence killers, the leadership blind spots that destroy your team's performance. And we left you with another little bit of a cliffhanger. We told you that today we were going to talk about the one conversation that every business owner is really terrified to have.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't figured it out, it's not a conversation with a difficult employee. It's not a conversation with an angry customer even. It's actually that conversation that you need to have with yourself. Yeah. So today we're going to kind of, break down and dissect exactly why most business owners end up being that single biggest bottleneck in their own company, and what you have to do to get out of your own way before it ends up costing you kind of everything: health, finances, quality of life, family, things like that. Big stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I truth be told, this is probably going to hit close to home for a lot of our listeners out there. But before we get into maybe the heavy stuff, the heavy lifting, let's kick things off with what we've been doing here recently with our daily inspirations rundown. So this is going to be where Jay and I give you maybe one sharp truth you need to hear before you start your day. Right. So Jay, why don't you start us off there?
Yeah, sure. So here's a truth for today. Your team's not failing you, you're failing them by refusing to let them fail. If you demand perfection, you'll get paralysis. Great leaders do not protect their people from failure. They protect them from fatal mistakes and let them learn from the rest. So stop hovering and start leading.
I like that. That's a good one. All right, so here's mine for you guys. The problem is not the market, and the problem is not the leads. The problem is not the generation of workers that are coming through the mix now. If you want to find the ceiling in your business, go look in the mirror. Your company will never outgrow your capacity to lead it. If you are tired of the chaos, it is time to take some extreme ownership of that chaos.
Yep, extreme ownership. Plug for a great book, Jocko Willink. Great book.
Yeah, much better than Sunny Delight.
That's right. So this is energy we're bringing today. So Fitz, let's get into it.
Yeah. So let's start with the hot take for today. Not about the taste of Sunny Delight. We'll get onto the real stuff. But the conventional wisdom in the entrepreneurial world is that if your business isn't growing, you need more leads. You need maybe a better marketing strategy, or you need to hire better people in general.
Yeah. And my hot take, is that if your business is stalled out at $1 million or 5 million or even 10 million, the problem is likely not your marketing, your leads, or your team. The problem is that your business has outgrown your current capacity as a leader. You are the ceiling.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that for sure. And I think this is the hardest truth for any founder to accept. You built this thing from the ground up, which is something to be proud of, and you sacrificed your nights and your weekends, and unfortunately, in a lot of cases, some of your health and relationships to get things up and running off the ground. You're the hero of the story at that point, and now maybe the very traits that made you successful, in those kind of early stages in the beginning, your hustle, your control, that obsession with the details, all of those things that were really important to get where you are, they unfortunately kind of become the enemy. They're the exact traits that are suffocating your company.
And, Fitz, one thing I want to actually plug in here before we go on is a couple of months ago, we kind of did a 6-week mini course on kind of making sure your business is ready. And one of the things we talked about is if you're not growing, you are What do we say?
Dying.
Yeah. And so Powerful Media, we work with all sizes of companies. And it's important to notice that if you are content with where you're at, you're actually shrinking,
Mhm.
even if it feels like things are stable. You're going to have cost of living go up. You're going to have employees ask for raises. You're going to have product prices go up. Right now, what's the cost for a gallon of gas?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to have these things that start taking from your business if you aren't actively looking at growing. And so, in a lot of cases, this conversation we're having, it ends up being a classic founder's trap. Really,
Mhm.
you are so used to being the smartest person in the room, the best salesperson on the floor, the best installer on the crew, and you end up not being able to let go. So you micromanage maybe even everything. You demand that every decision runs through you, and as a result, nothing moves unless you move.
Yeah. And then, Jay, I think what we end up experiencing some of the conversations we have,
Mm-hmm.
you complain that as that
Yeah.
leader that you're exhausted and that your team doesn't
Yeah.
take any initiative, right? I
Mm,
think we've had that conversation far too often. And
yeah.
of course they don't take initiative. You haven't trained that initiative into them or you haven't given them the opportunity to do so. In fact, I think what you have trained them is that if they make a decision without you, you're going to swoop in and I don't know, correct them or tell them where they did it wrong or change it completely and make it your own, your own decision at that point. And again, that's just demotivating.
Yeah. Yeah. But, to kind of play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, push back on that, letting go is terrifying, Fitz. When you
Mm,
let go, mistakes happen. When you let go, a customer might get angry. When you let go, it ultimately costs you money in the short term. And how do you tell a business owner who has maybe their entire life savings tied up in this company to just let go and watch their team make expensive mistakes?
yeah. Look, I can certainly appreciate it. It's easier said than done. And it is not without anxiety or
Mm,
fear of what, that failure could mean, right? But I think you have to, Jay, you got to maybe redefine what a mistake actually is. If an employee
okay.
makes, let's say, $1,000 mistake because they made a bad judgment call, that is maybe not a complete loss. Don't get me wrong, $1,000 is not a small amount of money, right? And certainly at different
Mhm.
scales, $1,000 means different things. But it's maybe a small sacrifice here or there that you can just pay a different way, right? So you just paid $1,000 to train that employee, though, if you look at it differently, right? You
Mhm.
switch that mistake around in your mind. It's like tuition in this kind of graduate program that you're putting your people through. So you
Sure.
paid that $1,000 to train the employee on how to make a better decision next time. If you swooped in and fixed it for them, you're still losing the $1,000, but
Yeah.
you're not getting anything out of it, right? There's something to be said. Jay, I will say the phrase all the time. Sometimes you got to touch the hot stove to learn not to touch the hot stove.
Mhm.
Look, the kind of relating this, both of us are parents, right? I certainly don't want my 7-year-old to ever touch a hot stove and burn his hand, right? And
Yep.
and I
Yep.
think we're very quick to like run and grab them and make sure that they don't do those things. But sometimes he does need to fall and scrape his knee and
Mhm.
find out like that, what, I need to keep myself under control when I'm running down a hill so that I don't do those kinds of things. Those mistakes can be good things if we learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe our listeners can follow up and tell me where this story came from. But I remember listening to, I think it was a podcast about business growth, and a business owner was saying they had an employee make it was significant. It was like a $200,000 mistake or something, like massive, massive.
That wouldn't be hard.
Yeah, I know. Great employee. And so the employee came in fully expecting to get fired, and could have been. And the owner just said, "Hey, that was a really expensive lesson for you to learn, but you won't do it again, will you?" And
Mhm.
the employee said, "Absolutely not. I'm smarter because of it." And the employee stayed on and continued to do great things. And big, big changes when you allow the employee to own and solve their own problems.
Yeah. Well, if I could share like an experience I had, a different world, right? Obviously, but I had the opportunity to play baseball in college and was very fortunate to be able to do so. And our coach would give us kind of a talk at the beginning of every fall when we would get into school, and we'll go through expectations and this is how things are going to work, practices, all these things, off season training. And one
Hmm.
of the things he would say at the very end was, "I need you to hurry up and fail." right? And it's not an uncommon phrase. People have used it before, but it was really important, right? Because we got seniors and juniors and sophomores and freshmen, and there's going to be a couple of freshmen and sophomores in this room that are going to help us win games and hopefully win a championship at some point later on in the year. But they're new. They don't know what to do yet.
Yeah.
They don't know what we're doing. They don't know our plays. They don't know all the things we do. And they're all scared of making mistakes. They all want to live up to the expectations that they were brought in to be the best at their position or what have you. And they all want to like impress all the upperclassmen. The tendency is to avoid mistake. So the leader sitting in front of the room, having that conversation and telling them, hurry up and fail is huge. But he would go further and explain it to them so they understood. Because he would tell them, I want you to fail now. Fail in September and October and November, because I cannot have you fail in May in the 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning of a game in May. Make the mistake now, so when that situation presents itself then, we've already been there, we've done it, and you can make a better decision at that point. And that's a lesson that has stuck with me ever since that day. Like, failure is an okay thing so long as we learn.
Yeah, this is a good conversation. I like the phrase you used about calling it tuition. You know, one of the things that pretty much all businesses are guilty of is having a lackluster training program. We bring them in and, you know, there's the curse of knowledge. We know too much. And so we bring them in and we're like, hey, you know, it's so easy a caveman can do it. And so we don't take the time to teach them the right ways, and they end up learning by making mistakes. But, you know, I like this distinction. You know, the cost of the mistake is maybe even like that price of admission to scale. And if you're not willing to pay that tuition, again, I like that word, you'll be trapped in the day-to-day operations of your business ultimately kind of forever.
Sure. Yeah. Well, all right. So Jay, let's break this down into maybe the symptoms. I think because most owners don't wake up and say, you know, I'm the bottleneck today, right? They just feel that friction and maybe don't necessarily know where they're feeling it from. So let's talk about the 3 maybe undeniable signs that you are becoming or you are the obstacle in your own growth. So sign number 1, the got a minute culture.
Yeah, sure. If you walk into your office and you have a line of people outside your door waiting to ask you a question, or if your phone rings 50 or 100 times a day with employees saying, hey boss, got a minute, you're the bottleneck. This is, what's the comedian? Here's your sign.
Yep. Yeah. Billing. Well, I think it is. Yeah.
That's a good one. Here's your sign.
Yeah.
You're the bottleneck.
No doubt. Look, I think it's that phrase or some variation of it, right? Every time somebody says, got a minute, I think what you need to understand is what they're really saying is, I do not have the authority, right? Or I don't have the training or the confidence to make this decision myself. And whose fault is that? It's yours. On top of that, like they recognize like you're extremely busy because all of the decisions are going through you, and they don't want to like tread on that, right? So you've created a culture of pure dependency at this point.
Yeah. Figuring out how to delegate freedoms is such a amazing thing for the owner to realize, up to this level, I trust you to make that decision without me. So sign number 2, you are still wearing the chief firefighter badge. If every major problem in the company ultimately lands on your desk to be solved, here's your sign, you're the bottleneck.
I like it. I don't know why I picture like the red plastic hat too.
Yeah,
like
I totally did too.
Okay. In
fact, I got a Dalmatian in my picture.
There you go. So hopefully as you kind of start to like think about these things for yourself, you can laugh a little bit about some of these things you've done and put away. We can because we're guilty of these things as well too. But this is a huge one too, Jay. A lot of owners secretly, I think, love being the firefighter. It definitely feeds the ego. It makes us feel, or those feel maybe indispensable. And I think when the massive customer escalation happens, or they get to put that person gets to put on the cape, so to speak, and swoop in and save the day, it's an opportunity they have to remind everyone why they are the boss, right? But I think the important thing to remember is, while you are fighting fires, who's steering the ship? Nobody, right? It takes you away from growing a business.
Yeah, definitely. Sign number 3, your team's performance drops the moment you leave the building. I've seen this a bunch of times too. Oh, I can't take a vacation. Everything will fall apart. If you can't take a 2-week vacation without your phone ringing or without the sales numbers tanking, You don't own a business. You own a job, and it is a job you never get to quit.
Yeah, that's a painful one. I think probably at the end of it to realize, probably not even as painful for you as it is might be for you, like your family and the rest of
Mhm.
the people around you. So that is, I think, the ultimate test of a business, right? Can it survive? And even more importantly, can it thrive in your absence?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, then you have built, I think, a very fragile system that is, well, I mean, very clearly, it's entirely dependent on your sheer force of will, right? Like
Yeah.
your will to like keep things going, motivate people, all of those things. And yeah, that's a scary place to be.
Yeah. And the statistic out there that a lot of us have heard is I think it's like 7 or 9 out of 10. I think it's 7 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 5 years. And
Mm,
then it's like 7 out of 10 of the remaining businesses fail in the next 5 years.
mhm.
And there's a huge drop off in business success. And I know there's other factors that play into it. Maybe you opened a restaurant and it's just a really difficult market and nobody could have succeeded. But generally speaking, what you and I are talking about right now, Fitz, this is why these businesses don't last.
For sure.
When you grow to a size of you can't manage it and you don't get out of the way, your energy tanks and then the business does too. So
Mhm.
let's get personal for a minute, Fitz. We like to talk about what's going on in real life. So we've both been here. We've both been the bottleneck. If you are willing to, why don't you share a moment where you realize maybe you were the ceiling in one of your organizations?
We always seem to start with me on these, Jay. Next time we're
Yeah.
going with
Yeah.
you. We're gonna
Yeah.
talk about your failures for a little bit next
Yeah.
time, for the record. All right.
Yeah, I think we'll be out
Uh,
of time by the time it gets to me.
That's yeah, that's weird how that works.
Yeah.
No, I don't mind sharing. I think it's a look, it's a real thing. We all go through this, and
Mhm.
I think at a certain point when you start to grow and you grow kind of quickly, it almost naturally happens this way, and you kind of got to get smacked in the face with it. So it's good to know that you're not alone. I don't necessarily know that makes
Yeah,
anybody feel more comfortable with it, but look, it was
yeah.
painful for me, Jay. Working with a company that was growing, and we were helping them grow things really, really fast. Revenue was climbing through the roof, and so was my stress level. It
Yeah.
was probably as high as it's ever been. I 40 hours a week was a daydream. You know, to be honest with
Mhm,
you, I was definitely 60, 70, probably upwards of 80 hours in a week that I was taking
mhm,
calls, emails, working on the things I need to work on in the off hours kind of thing. So it became really kind of a micromanaging of every detail. The
mhm.
truth of it was is I had probably convinced myself that I was doing it all for the right reasons, right? I was doing it to protect the brand, protect what we had built, the systems and the processes. And I think the biggest thing I was convincing myself of, Jay, was that I was doing it to like take care of my people, right? Like they
Mhm.
didn't have as much invested in it. They weren't at the level I was at. So like I just didn't want all of that like trickling to their plates. And like I
Yeah.
could just take more and more and more and more and more. And it was burning me out.
Yeah, yeah. Can you picture maybe when or what the breaking point was?
No, yeah, very vividly. Yeah, unfortunately, very vividly. Yeah, I had a conversation with one of my top leaders. He was like my right hand person, and yeah, a guy I respected immensely. He actually pulled me into his office and started a conversation. But I actually started complaining about how nobody on the team was kind of stepping up to take ownership of a certain task, right? I
Yeah.
was venting, I needed to. It was kind of one of those weeks that wasn't going great. And he took the opportunity to look me dead in the eye and have an honest moment with me. And he just flat out said, he said, Fitz, nobody is stepping up because there's no room to step up. You take up all the
Yeah.
oxygen in the room, and we're just kind of waiting for you to tell us what to do. The
Oof.
angry, like Irishman inside of me wanted to just be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Fortunately, cooler head prevailed. I took a little bit of a breath and let it sink
Mhm.
in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's first off, I appreciate those people on the team that are willing to tell us the truth. I think
Mhm.
that those people are tremendously valuable, but to be honest, also, man, what a gut punch.
Oh, yeah. It destroyed me. I was very appreciative that he was honest. I could tell that it probably had been something he wanted to say for a while. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was furious at first. I wanted to
Mhm.
give everybody, a one finger salute kind of thing. But I think when I finally calmed down and got all that emotion out of the way, I realized, I mean, he was dead on. He was right. I was suffocating my own team because I think it was, I was convincing myself it was for all those other things, but it was kind of the insecurity that I was the only one that could do it the right way, and I needed to have the control over it. So I had to have a really hard conversation with myself, and I did that night. And I think what I decided, if I really wanted to be the smartest guy in a small company, like that was a pretty sad place to be, or was I really willing to kind of step out of that and ultimately kind of change my whole philosophy to, look, my goal now is to be, I want to be the dumbest person in a massive
Yep.
room. Don't make a comment there, Jay. Oh,
Mm,
there we go. But
I'm
I
just
think that's
saying you're successful.
yeah, I figured you might. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, right? Like, can I teach everybody to be like independent thinkers and in a weird way, not be necessary in the room that I built? That would be a cool place to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the transition from doer to leader. Similar moment for myself. At Powerful Media, we do appointment scheduling, among other things. We do a lot of things here, and I held on to the process of scheduling appointments way longer than I should have. At one point, my phone was getting 1,500 notifications a day
Ooh.
because I was making sure every single message came through my phone and I had an opportunity to look at it. And we'd bring new people in and they would comment to the older employees, "Hey, what the heck is Jay doing? He's like in my inbox. He's doing my job for me."
Mm.
And I would literally step in and take over conversations from my team members if I thought that they were going to maybe lose the appointment. And I had to figure out that equipping them was far more beneficial, i.e., leading them,
Yeah.
than trying to do their job for them.
Mm.
And my wife, I just drove her nuts because she's like, "Jay, it's 11 o'clock at night. What are you doing on your phone?" And I'm over here going, "Oh, I just got to fix this mistake my team member's doing." And
Yeah.
big shift from keeping an eye on them and micromanaging them to equipping them better in the training and ongoing meetings and in sessions after the fact. The next day I would jump in and say, "Hey, I saw the message come through. Why don't you let me know how you handled it?"
Mm.
And I would let them solve those things for themselves.
Yeah, that's a big shift, I think, right? You go from kind of like you don't realize that you're tickling the ego, I think, for yourself. I'm
Mhm.
the only person that can do this and see this, and that you kind of shift away from that. So I think that's a cool thing, and I think you start to maybe recognize, and I'm sure you did in that moment, that you maybe had some better players on your team than you even knew
Yep.
you had.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was saving the lead, but I was really messing with their confidence. And I was ultimately teaching them that I didn't trust them,
Mm.
which is so frustrating because it feels like I don't know, a dichotomy. You're like, "Hey, I'm coming in and helping you set this lead, which is how you get paid." But I'm also destroying their ability to do that on their own the next opportunity that comes through. And I had a few people leave
Mm.
because of it. They left because I wouldn't let them do their job. Kind of embarrassing to say that, but definitely I ended up being the bottleneck in their own growth.
Mm. Yeah, that's a tough realization to have, but I think
Mhm.
there's some people that don't ever have it and continue to plug away. So better to have it and realize it than just kind of ignore it. So look, I think
Yeah.
this is exactly what we're talking about. I think, and we mentioned earlier in the daily inspiration rundown that we do. I think we see it time and time again. People are starving for leaders who trust them enough to let them make mistakes. Right.
Yeah.
So let's bring this one home for the audience and give them some actionable takeaways. If you're listening to this and you realize that you're the bottleneck, Jay, let's give them three things that maybe they can do this week to get out of their own way, so to speak.
Yeah. I like this. These action items are pretty simple. So step one, institute the bring me solutions, not problems rule. Starting tomorrow, when an employee walks into your office with a problem, don't solve it for them. Look them dead in the eye and say, "What do you think we should do?"
Mm.
Force them to use their own brain with that. They've got a very active mind, just like you do, with full capacity. And so even if their solution isn't perfect the first go around, let them run with it if it won't sink the company for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a brilliant one, right? You start to
Yeah.
train them to recognize a problem, but also think about the solution, not just like execute your commands, so to speak. So
Hmm.
it's a really good one. And you start to see things move a lot quicker when this starts to get implemented. All right.
Yeah.
What about number two, Jay?
I like this one. Fire yourself from one major role this week.
Mm.
Pick one thing that you're holding on to the tightest, whether it's reviewing contracts or running the morning sales meeting, ordering materials, document your process and hand it off to somebody on your team that you feel is most capable to take it and step away. Now, this is the biggest part here. Ready? Don't check their work.
Ooh, okay.
Yep. Let them own it.
That anxiety that you're feeling right now, hearing that is pretty normal. Okay. You're going to feel it when you do this. That's growth. Okay.
Yep.
Look, embrace it, embrace discomfort. All right.
Yep.
So Jake, hit us with the final one.
Yeah. Step 3, change that metric for success. Stop measuring your success by how many fires you put out today. Start measuring your success by how many decisions your team made without needing your input.
Mhm.
I definitely look at the end of my day and I'm like, who did I help today? And I go, wait a minute, did I actually help them or did I equip them? And an easy metric is the quieter your phone is, the better a leader you're becoming.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it, especially in our
Mhm.
world, right? Because the phone can get going kind of crazy no matter which department you're in, and sometimes make you a little nervous if the phone's not ringing at all. But
Right. Yeah.
well, few less rings would be, or a few fewer rings would be
Hmm.
better, right? So the
Yep.
quieter your phone is, the better a leader you are becoming. I think that is a great goal to set for yourself. A business that runs on we talk about all the time, on systems and
Systems. Yep.
empowered leaders, not just on that sheer force of your personality or your will. That's a cool thing, man.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And if you can, get your ego out of the way, there's really no limit to what your team can build for you. But you do have to let go of the wheel.
Yeah. I got to tell you, the people at Sunny Delight got to be pretty excited they signed up for this one.
Yeah,
This was a
right.
fun episode today,
Yeah.
right? So, look, if this hit home for you, do us a favor. I know we ask a lot, but it does mean a lot to us and helps us produce things like this and get more of the stuff out and answer more questions for you guys. But if you could like and subscribe, ring the bell. I always forget where it is. Just there's a bell somewhere. Hit it for us and ring it.
Yep. Yep.
Share it with other business owners, who might currently be trapped in their own bottleneck
Hmm.
themselves, right? This is how
Yep.
we grow our show and reach more people that might need this kind of stuff and might need those hard
Yep.
truths, kind of let us be the people
Yep.
that tell it to them, not you.
Yeah. 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 Hey, you need to listen to the Fitz and Franson show. And they're
Hmm.
like, oh, why is that? And you're like, just listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Fitz will set you straight.
There you go.
So make sure you join us next week. Because if today was about, the mistakes you're making with yourself, next week is about the biggest mistake you are making with your team. We're going to talk about the one topic everyone tends to avoid, which is why I fired my best sales rep. And this might be a different position, best operations guy, best customer service rep, something like that. We're
Mhm.
going to talk and we're going to break down kind of the toxic A player, the culture killer, and why holding on to your top producer might be the exact thing, really bankrupting your culture. I don't think you'll want to miss it.
Another one that probably makes people squirm a little bit, ruffles some feathers, right? So can't
Yep.
wait. Can't wait for that one. Until next time,
Yep. I'm Franson.
and I'm Fitz. Happy hunting, everybody.
We'll catch you next time. Same mic, same grind, big laughs, big talks. Yeah, we're built different, all right. Thanks for watching. Now get back to work.